4, I'm going to call the meeting to order. I need a roll call and certificate of quorum from Anna, please.
Yes, sir. Steve Epperson, presiding officer.
Here.
Babette Ellis is absent. Joseph Levine. You're muted, sir.
Present.
Thank you. Cynthia Rothermill.
Present.
Dr. Melanie Mercer is absent. Andrea Gregg.
Here.
And Laura Donahue.
Present.
We have a quorum, sir.
Thank you. I assume everybody has a copy of the summary of the minutes. Need a approval for that. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor? Anna, you take the count.
I'm sorry, can I know who seconded that motion? Okay, Ms. Rothermill, okay. Okay, let's do a roll call vote. Joseph Levine,
Yes. Yes.
Cynthia Rothermill,
Yes.
Andrea Gregg,
Yes.
Laura Donahue,
Yes.
and presiding officer Steve Epperson.
Yes.
Motion passes, sir.
I understand from earlier comments that we do not have any public comments.
That's correct, yes, sir.
We'll move right on to staff reports, and first will be the licensing division.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I am Tarsha Red. I'm presenting the staff report for the licensing division. And since our last meeting, we have issued one new license. There have been 15 renewals. Of those, 5 are cat breeders, 155 are dog breeders, and there are 2 breeders that have both cat and dog. And our current population is now at 160. A little bit of change since our last meeting, even though it was just a few months ago. But it's a good trend that's going so far. And there's nothing else to really report. We've made our adjustments to continue to ensure the work continues since the stay-at-home order. There's been no changes in licensing that have affected the breeder program as far as staffing goes. But we have made adjustments to ensure that all of our programs, the licenses can continue in spite of the pandemic that we're currently facing. And if there's no questions, that is the end of my report.
Anyone have questions? Now we will move on to the customer service division and their report. Michael, you are muted. Hello, is anyone there?
I think Mary Winston TDLR. Is Dawn Robinson here? We may be having some technical difficulties.
Okay.
Yeah, we do. She's got that orange cone. Okay, if Ms. Jefferson. Oh, she's popped up. This is the beauty of the virtual meeting. Dawn, do you have audio? You're muted. There we go.
Can you hear me? Thank you.
Gotcha
So
now.
Tasha was talking and all of a sudden I didn't hear anything. So I logged out and logged back in. Thank you for being patient with me. My name is Dawn Robinson. I am one of the managers here in customer service. You have before you fiscal year 2020 and fiscal year 2021. Total number of emails was 182, and total number of phone calls is 643. And they are broken out respectively month by month for you. If you have any other questions, I'm here to assist.
Anyone have a? If not, we will move on to the division.
Hi, good morning. Oh, can you hear me?
Morning.
Yeah, good morning. My name is Aaron Heath, and I'm a prosecutor with the Enforcement Division, here to give the enforcement report. We have one personnel update for you. Jackie Revilla was promoted to Prosecution Legal Assistant Manager on October 1st, and she was previously our Legal Assistant Supervisor. She's been with TDLR for 18 years now. Going down to the statistics, at our previous meeting in September, we gave you the fiscal year 2020 statistics through the end of July. And so this one contains the fiscal year statistics, basically just adding the month of August to fiscal year 2020. So we had 61 cases opened, 61 cases closed. Average time to close was 362 days. The percentage of cases resolved within 6 months was 6.56%. And the percentage of cases resulting in disciplinary action is 1.64%. We currently have 50 cases pending. So the sources of cases open, it's basically the same as it was last time. And same for the case outcomes and the alleged violations at opening, still dominated by unlicensed breeders. And then some of the other things like no routine preventive health care and issues with primary enclosures. And also the expired breeder license, which is a subset of unlicensed activity. And we have the same violations resulting in disciplinary action as we had the last meeting. We don't have any case highlights for you this meeting. And so that is the end of my report. Do you have any questions?
I have a question.
Sure.
Who's speaking, please?
This is Laura Donahue.
Okay.
Good, Laura.
I'm just curious because I don't know that I've seen anything in writing, but how has COVID affected your division, and are there new policies in place? How are you guys, dealing with the normal course of action with the pandemic?
The pandemic has it hasn't affected our prosecutors as much. Everything's just done remotely now. And same with most of our other office staff, like the legal assistants in our intake section. Who it's really affected are our investigators. They're not able to for a while, they were not able to go to certain locations. There was basically a moratorium on going out to places. We've been easing them into it, but it's also because of some of the fiscal constraints of the pandemic, our travel budget has been reduced to some extent. And so that means that now the investigators don't have as much money as well to travel to some of these locations. And for this program specifically, that does impact the investigation of cases, because most of these breeders are in remote locations, mostly in rural areas and usually far away from the kind of, let's say, hubs of where our investigators are located. So I would say that's been the biggest impact, is just getting investigators to the locations.
Ms. Donahue, this is Mike Harrisman, Deputy Executive Director. I appreciate that question. Let me kind of follow up a little bit with what Aaron's saying. I appreciate Aaron coming in on that. We have and when he said there was a targeted of some of the inspections not being done, what we were doing was we were looking at various counties throughout the state of Texas that had high rates of COVID cases. And we were essentially, as was stated by Aaron, put a moratorium. We weren't going out to those particular counties until the numbers began to start dropping to a point that we felt safe in order to be able to send our inspectors, investigators back out to those counties. There's just a few counties left that are still doing that. As you have probably been keeping up, the Lubbock, Amarillo, El Paso, San Angelo area are really bad in those COVID cases right now. So there's some cases there, some counties there that we're watching specifically. As far as the budget was concerned, as you know, we were asked to do a 5% cut. And so a part of our cut did include the travel portion of our budget. So we are currently running about 75% of our travel that we normally have. So we've only cut about 25%. So we did allocate funding in order to be able to do the travel and doing the investigations. As you know, because we've cut back and not done investigations, inspections in some of those counties because of the numbers, there's not travel going into those counties. So while 75% seems that it's, we don't have a lot of money left over, it's actually will balance itself out by the end of the fiscal year because of the fact that we're restricting ourselves from going into particular counties right now because of the numbers. So we think that once these numbers begin to start decreasing, then we should be able to see a vast improvement in our inspection numbers and being able to go out some of these rural areas as Aaron was talking about.
Great, thank you.
Mhm. And I just wanted to clarify there that the enforcement division only has the investigators. Field inspections has the inspectors. And so if you wanted to ask about the inspections that happen at the licensed facilities, you might want to ask the field inspecters in field inspection
Great,
section.
thank you for that.
Is there another question?
I have a question.
Sure.
It's either for Mike or Aaron. It's a twofold question. The first part of the question is in your statistics for the fiscal year 2020, you showed cases opened at 61, cases closed at 61. That may be just a coincidental number because I'm sure there's some carryover, bleed over from the fiscal year 2019. But you also say there are 50 cases pending. So I just wanted you to maybe address those numbers. And then the second part of the question is the penalties assessed. There's an $11,000 penalty showing in that line. I'm not sure if that's one penalty or if it's multiple penalties. But I see penalties collected as zero. And once again, I wonder how the TDLR or the BRE is going to enforce those penalties. How are you going to collect those if you guys are continuing to perhaps struggle with collecting those, especially with COVID being maybe a factor? So I'll wait for the answer, please.
Sure. Yes, the 61 open, 61 closed, that is somewhat of a coincidence. A lot of the some of the closed maybe carry over from cases from a previous year. But we do have 50 open cases currently as of the end of fiscal year 2020. So as of September 1st, we had 50 pending cases. The next part of your question goes to the penalties assessed. That was one case. The respondent in that one was the Puppy Man. Mitchell D. Gilbert, I believe is the name of the facility operator. So that individual defaulted on that case. They had a lot of other criminal issues involved, and they also got assessed some criminal fines. For this type of case, I can't say exactly if we'll be able to collect, but what generally happens is if it's under $5,000, the penalty, we have our own internal debt collection process, and this is something that the general counsel does. And if it's $5,000 or over, our agency may refer the case to the Attorney General's office, and they can take legal action to either enforce, if there's other issues besides just the penalties, you can enforce a revocation or enforce actions, but they also will be able to collect that $11,000 debt through legal proceedings. And that's assuming they have any money to pay.
I would guess in many cases that is the case, that they just don't have the the resources to pay the fine, or maybe not the willingness to pay the fine. So they're going to refuse to do that. And even if you involve an outside collection agency to do that, their percentage of success with cases like this may be limited too. Wouldn't you agree?
Potentially, yes. I would say that in this particular situation for this individual, it is likely that they do not have the resources to pay this. Oh, something happened?
Something did happen. Mary Winston, TDLR. You popped in and you popped back out. But yes, Aaron is describing the collections process that we go through when we do have penalties assessed over a certain amount. We don't have the capabilities to be a collection agency. However, our state attorney general's office does. And they also have the ability to put in a judgment, to place a judgment on this person. Now, their collection at that point, Mr. Levine, you're right. It's going to be individual as to what that person has and collecting on that judgment. But when we handle our little piece of the world, this is how we proceed and then hand it on. But I'm not sure about the Attorney General's collection efforts, but I do know that they have that ability to move forward if it goes towards a criminal action and as well as collecting those fines.
Thank you very much, Miss Mary. I'm certainly no attorney, but I do have a business background. And I know that, one of our concerns as the committee is funding for this program. And if we want to keep this program funded, then we need to make sure we do everything possible to bring in those funds. So that was the reason for my question.
Yeah, I also have another question too.
Sure.
The count for the violations, 33 from the unlicensed breeders, how do they figure in with the penalties there? Looked like we've lost Michael again.
So the 33 unlicensed breeders violations at opening, and how did they, for that $11,000, is that what you're referring to?
Yes, what percent or what part of that?
0. So that case that resulted in an $11,000 penalty, that was a licensed breeder, and there were multiple violations, which are down below at the breeder violations resulting in disciplinary action. All 7 of those violations resulted in that $11,000 penalty. So we had 2 food and water and/or water receptacle violations. It was actually a food one and a water one. And then they didn't provide routine and preventative health care for the animals, and they failed to provide basic grooming, failed to properly clean the primary enclosure. They failed to collect and/or remove waste, and to establish and maintain an effective pest control program.
So the entirety of the penalties assessed all came from one facility.
Exactly. Yes.
Thank you.
For fiscal year 2020.
Any more questions? If not, we'll move on to the Regulatory Program Management Division.
Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me? Great. I'm Russell Tolley, the program specialist in the Regulatory Programs Management section. There have been no substantive changes since my last report at the last meeting. Latasha Poland and I are still the program specialists. We still work under the direction of Stuart Stenard, who is the Business and Consumer Safety Section Manager of RPM. Regarding the outreach, there have been no recent outreach efforts by Latasha or myself, primarily, well, almost exclusively due to the COVID crisis. All the conferences that we generally attend throughout the year have been canceled. That's the extent of my report, and I'm open for questions if you have any.
Anyone have a question for us?
Question?
Go ahead, Joe.
Russell, good to see you again, sir. The question may or may not pertain to the Regulatory Program Management Division, but last week there was an email sent out at, I think it was 4:45 in the evening, saying there's an emergency meeting of the TDLR to discuss the impact of the COVID. And the meeting was scheduled for 5:30 p.m., which was 45 minutes. Now, I didn't see that email until later that evening. So, of course, I didn't have a chance to, sign in. Can you maybe shed some light on what was discussed during that meeting?
I didn't participate in that meeting. Maybe Mary did. I'm not sure.
Mr. Levine, this is Mike Irishman. I can provide you that information when we get into our executive session, or Molly can do that during general counsel update.
Perfect. Thank you, sir.
Well, Mr. Levine, I was actually going to offer to talk to you after the meeting since it's not specifically on this agenda.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions?
Oh, and Mary Winston, TDLR, I want to remind everyone too that that meeting is also available on YouTube. So, but we'll handle that some more later. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Mary. No questions. We'll move on to, and thank you, Russ. Move on
Thank
to
you.
the strategic communication.
Actually, Mr. Presiding Officer, I believe we are going to move on to, I think next on the agenda is field inspections. Am I correct?
Maybe I have my paperwork mixed up here. That is on the agenda down here. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
The Field Inspection Division.
Good morning, everyone. My name is James Turner. I'm the Field Inspections Liaison for the Field Inspections Division. I do have a personnel update today. I'd like to let everyone know that our Division Director, Tanya Guthrow, retired effectively October 30th. Tanya began her career with TDLR 36 years ago and is the founding director of the Field Inspections Division. During that period, she began with part-time employment while attending the University of Texas here in Austin, and continued to move up the ranks. She definitely leaves behind a great legacy for us to follow through her leadership, her strength, her compassion, and her wealth of knowledge. And we wish Tanya the best in all of her future endeavors. I'd also like to let everyone know that there has been a promotion for the East region of Field Inspections. This includes Ramon Rodriguez being promoted to an Inspector 5, and that promotion took effect on November 1st of 2020. We'd like to congratulate Ramon. There was a question earlier regarding the COVID-19 incident and how that's impacted field inspections. As you can see here in the statistics, there was a slow go in terms of getting back into the field, as breeder inspections were included in our phase 3 plan of programs that needed to be inspected during the COVID-19 suspension. But we did begin completing inspections in early October. And as Mr. Reyes, our regional manager for the South region, informed the team during our last meeting, we were just focusing on the pre-license inspections during that period of time from March through October, but now we're back into the flow of doing periodic inspections. And those periodic inspections will, actually they began last week. We completed our first periodic inspection. So we are now doing both the pre-license inspections for the program and back in the flow of completing the backlog of periodic inspections. So if there are any additional questions on that, I'm happy to field those questions. And Juan Munoz is also a part of the meeting today, and he can provide some more information. As to the current projects, what we're working on includes we're reinitiating periodic inspections, but this is coming in a new form. We are testing a hybrid inspection, which allows the licensees to provide us with the required documents. And once they've submitted those documents, the inspectors will go out and complete an on-site inspection to ensure that the animals are in healthy and safe conditions. That hybrid inspection is initiated through an email being sent to the licensees, and the licensees can then follow up and provide the documentation that's required. And once we complete the on-site inspection, we're doing an inventory count of all of the animals on site and providing feedback through through the documentation of the proof of inspection form, and sending that by email to make sure that we can maintain that 6 feet of social distancing to protect our licensees from COVID or any exposure to COVID. So once the review of the documents is complete, the inspector will, follow up accordingly, still providing that 2-week or 10 business days notice of inspection. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer those at this time.
The emails, are y'all still accepting the paperless reports, paperless information
As far as inventory,
for everything?
well, if I'm speaking to the point of your question, so you can take photographs of the documents, and those can be sent via email or via text to the inspector who's initiating the process of coordinating the periodic inspection. So yes, that would be a paperless process.
Okay, the programs that some of the breeders have that keep all the records and everything, that's all you need.
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Any more questions?
I have a question.
Okay, Joe, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Was someone else wanting to speak?
This is Laura Donahue. I will after you.
Thank you, Laura. Hello, Mr. James.
Yes.
Joe Levine. Nice to speak with you. Thank you for those numbers. I have a question about the upcoming, maybe the first quarter for the fiscal year 2021 on your schedule. Can you tell me how many field inspections that y'all have scheduled for the first quarter? And also, can you, for the record, can you remind me how many inspectors you currently employ?
Okay. So for the first quarter of 2021, we have not scheduled inspections. Now, when we're speaking fiscal year 2021, we're speaking the months of September, October, and November, to be specific, correct?
That's correct. So my apologies. So I guess that would mean the second quarter. Thanks for the correction.
Oh no, you're fine. Yeah. So we're in the process of coordinating the inspections for December, January, and February, and that process includes 8 inspectors at this time, 4 of which are experienced in the program, and then we have the introduction of 4 new experienced inspectors, but new to the breeder program. So our workforce includes a total of 8 inspectors at this time. And what we're doing in terms of scheduling and addressing the backlog is we're starting, because of the range of locations, we're starting with the oldest inspections first, or those that were due starting back in March, and then we're finding or identifying the inspections that are due that are in that general vicinity. So that allows a little bit more efficiency in our planning and our travel.
Would you be able to estimate or perhaps even give us an exact number of the backlog at this time?
It's approximately 90 inspections at this time. And that would be from March of 2020 through October 1st of 2020.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. Yes, Ms. Donahue?
Yes, thank you. I was wondering in regards to how you're still sort of limiting your on-site inspections because of COVID. What is that process? Is it similar to the enforcement division where you're sort of watching the COVID cases per county and it's sort of a touch and go basis depending upon where the cases are located? Or Are there certain counties that are kind of off limits at this point, or how do you guys work through those decisions?
Yeah, great question. It's a mix of both. There is a committee that's dedicated to, I believe it's a biweekly monitoring of the cases from county to county, and we do currently have counties that are restricted due to the nature of a breeder inspection and the fact that there, in most cases, there's a little bit more play in terms of space that we have to maintain that social distancing. Our inspectors are consulting with their managers, let's say in a Dallas County scenario, to make sure that this is an outdoor facility and also making sure that we can maintain safe social distancing to ensure the safety of the licensee and also the inspector that's on site.
Great, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Any more questions of James? If not, we're going to move on to the report from the executive office.
Good morning, everyone. Mike Arismendes here, Deputy Executive Director for the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation. I want to thank you, first of all, for your service. And I know that coming back from a kind of a holiday break, probably not an ideal time to have a meeting, but I appreciate your dedication and devotion to doing this. So I want to kind of give you a little quick update and let you know, since our last meeting that took place in September, we have begun the process of trying to develop a return to the office for our staff that will begin after January 1. Right now, we're looking at a date of January the 5th. As was mentioned earlier, we continue to have inspections and investigations going on. So we do have people that are going out into the field and that are working. We do have some folks that are still in the office. Financial services, as an example, has been at the office because of the nature of what they do. We do have some folks also coming in from licensing that have been coming to the office on a regular basis. So while we have had individuals at the offices, and actually some in enforcement too, so we just continue to work and have our IT division support them for everything that they're doing, and they're coming in as a as-needed basis as well. Since our last meeting, a couple of things we need to know is that we have had an extension of our expiration dates on licenses. That action was taken by the commissioners last Monday in an emergency meeting in order to respond to the COVID-19 pandemic. So what we were trying to do here is to ensure that certain licensees remain licensed during this pandemic. As I mentioned, that we do have people coming into the office. We have not been immune from COVID. We've had to close our financial services division down a few times because of positive cases that we received, which caused us to turn around and to shut the entire floor down, which caused us to get backlogged. And so we currently do have a backlog that's taking place at some of our licenses. In order to accommodate this, the commissioners issued a emergency rules that allowed for an extension of 90 days for licenses. This was done, of course, to protect the public health and safety and welfare of the citizens of Texas. The effective date of those emergency rules was November the 23rd, 2020. We're continuing to work with the governor's office in our emergency rules and waivers. And so we've been in constant communication with them, and we expect that we'll continue to do that. I'm going to, if you don't mind, just go ahead and go through my entire update, and I'll answer questions as they come up. I'm sure you probably have a few. Our LAR update, as you know, we submitted our legislative appropriations request to the LBB and the governor's office. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, that did include a 5% budget reduction that was requested to us in July. And then when the LAR came out, the instructions asked us to continue to bring forward a 5% budget reduction for the next biennium, which includes fiscal year 22 and 23. So we submitted our LAR. The appropriation request did also include a 5% budget reduction throughout the entire agency. So we'll continue to see that. Just so you know that there is a LBB meeting that will take place today at 2 o'clock. And in that meeting, we expect to get an update from the comptroller concerning the current financial situation of the state of Texas. So we'll be kind of watching it and looking for the to see what comes out of that. I would do a correction. Someone just notified me. The expiration date's for 120 days. My apologies. I said 90, but it's actually 120 days in those licenses. So moving on to our Sunset Commission report, which you're well aware of, as we discussed in our last meeting. We welcome the sunset process as it began to unfold itself before us. We found some really interesting and relevant things in there that we're able to apply. Deputy Executive Director Christina Kaiser has been tasked with the correcting all of our management actions. And so happy to report that she has implemented a lot of those management actions in the process and has a plan currently in place to begin to implement all of those other processes also in management actions that came out of the report. As you're aware, licensed breeders in this report has been recommended by the Sunset staff for deregulation. We have a numerous amount of comments that have come in on the Sunset website, so I would encourage everyone to continue that process. I would also tell you that we're a long ways away from this thing being final. This report was submitted by the Sunset staff, and through that report, the Sunset Commission will take it up. We have been notified that Sunset will meet on December the 7th and 8th. We are scheduled for our portion of the hearing on December the 7th due to a currently scheduled commission meeting on the 8th. So we've been told that they will take up the Sunset report on December the 7th through the Sunset Commission. They're still currently accepting comments on the website. So if you'd like to submit comments, feel free to do so through their website. But I would encourage everyone to watch and to see what comes out of that. There'll be just pretty much a discussion held on December the 7th. They will come back later with a decision after they receive all the comments and go through that whole process. So if you'd like, what I'd like to do is stop there and be able to answer any questions before I go into the communication stats.
Good morning, Mike. I have a question.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The meeting that's scheduled for later today, is that going to be on the TDR website or the state of Texas website?
It'll be on the state of Texas. You can find that on the House website and also the Senate website. But the LBB is consistent of both chambers.
Understood. Thank you, sir.
You bet.
More questions? Are you done, Mike?
Wow, that was easy. You made it easy for me. So let me kind of take you through the ComStats right quick. In the licensed breeders, as you can see, from May the 15th to November the 14th, which is about a 6-month window, there have been just under 20,000 views on the licensed breeder website, which is about an average of 106 per day. You can see on there that most of the requests or the views are coming from a smartphone, 70%. The reasons that they're visiting the website, as you can see in here, the number one reason is how to apply for a cat or dog breeder license. So all the stats are listed there, and we want to provide that information to let you know that the website does get some hints, and there's people, we're hoping they can find all the information they need on the website. Of course, if not, feel free to let us know if there's anything in there that you're not finding, so we can make sure that we can provide all the information for this industry. And Mr. Presiding Officer, that is the end of my report. And I'm available for any questions that anyone may have.
I have a question, Mike.
Yes, sir.
I look at the top reasons, the top 5 reasons. So I presume that besides the top 5 reasons, there are many other reasons. For example, I went to the website myself because I heard reports of a really horrible breeder in the part of Texas that was doing unspeakable things. And so I went to the TDR website to see if I could find them. I could not. But anyway, so can you address that? Maybe perhaps some of the other reasons for visiting? Do you know that, the answer to that question?
Well, to be honest with you, I could probably lay out a whole bunch of reasons and none of them would be true. So I will probably just have to tell you that what we're given through our website, Webmaster, are those top 5 reasons. We can probably go down to 10. I'll be more than happy to have that sent out to the board members.
I was just curious. I don't know if that's going to be necessary to waste your time. So, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
I have a question. This is Laura
Yes,
Donahue. Have the those hits to the website, that's for this last quarter, or is that
It
for
was-
the fiscal year?
No, it's actually for the last 6 months ending November the 14th, I believe. So
Okay.
from May 15th to November 14th. So we just
Okay.
kind of took a 6-month window shot.
Gotcha. And how does that compare? This is my first committee meeting. So how does that compare to the previous 6 months? Is that an increase or?
If I remember correctly, I think that's about average for our number of calls. I'm sorry, number of hits. Each individual industry varies. We may have some industries that may have 2,000 to 3,000. We may have some industries that'll hit, 200,000 based on the number of licenses and licensees that we have in the state of Texas. So as far as the licensed breeders, I don't think that this is a deviation from what we've seen in the past. But we'll be more than happy to provide you those stats also, Ms. Dunhue. That way you can kind of get a feel of what it was.
That'll be
And that should
wonderful.
be in
Thank
your
you.
minutes. Thank you. You bet.
Any more questions? Thank you, Mr. Mendez.
Chairman, Board, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Move on to G, our discussion for possible recommendations on the proposed amendments of the existing rules. I think everyone should have a copy of these. So who has the first comment on that?
Well, Mr. Epperson, this is Molly Feudel, Assistant General Counsel with TDLR. If you'd like, I would like to go ahead and present the rules to you and talk about the public comment that we received.
That is where I should be going, I think. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and share the rules on my screen for everybody to see. And just a reminder, these are the rules that were presented to you at your last meeting in September. And what these rules do is they implement Senate Bill 1531, which was passed in the last legislative session. And that bill made changes to the provisions related to criminal convictions in the breeder statute, specifically for criminal convictions for animal cruelty or neglect. And so what these rules do, these proposed rules, is they just bring the breeder rules in line with those changes to the statute. So they add the NOLO, the no contest plea, in there to the reason why somebody would be denied a breeder license. And they also, in addition to that, they simplify the language in the rules just to make them a little bit easier to understand. So I'm going to go ahead and scroll down for everybody to see. These rules were published in the Texas Register for public comment on October 16th. That 30-day comment period was up on November 16th. During that time, we received one comment, and it was from the Texas Humane Legislative Network, and it was in support of the rules. So generally, what we would do at this point is I would tell you that staff recommends that you vote to forward these rules to the commission for adoption without any changes, so as published in the Texas Register. So I'd ask that you take a vote on that, and of course I am also here for you in case you have any questions.
Anyone have questions? Do we have a comment? Looks like we may go straight to a vote. Anna, will you do a account for us?
We need a motion and a second first, sir.
I'm sorry. Okay, do I have a motion to accept the rules as are written?
Laura Donahue, I'll make the motion.
Do I have a second?
Joe Levine, I second.
You have that, Anna?
Yes, sir. Let me do a roll call. Joseph Levine,
Yes.
Cynthia Rothermel,
Yes.
Andrea Gregg,
Yes.
Laura Donahue,
Yes.
and presiding officer Steve Epperson.
Yes.
Motion passes, sir.
Thank you. Let me find where we're at here again. Let's get down to recommendations for agenda for the next meeting. What does anybody have? Anybody have? We have no recommendations, it appears. Discussion for date, time, and location for the next meeting. When, Anna, or I think Mary may be the one, she set this up the last time.
Mary Winston,
year-
I did, Mr. Epperson, but I'm going to, sorry to interrupt you, but I'm going to defer to, we have a couple of different things going on this time. Our legislative session is coming up, and we will have reports from that. We will have information from this Sunset Committee meeting. These are topics, so I'm kind of backtracking. But to have reports on those two things as well as other things, we do need to let the dust settle a little bit, and hopefully we'll all be vaccinated by that time. If not, it'll be coming soon. So, but this has been a wonderful way that we can all still meet and get these things accomplished. But I would suggest, Mr. Epperson, because you guys have handled your business today, moving the rules forward to the commission meeting scheduled in December. So there's not a necessity to meet before the end of year, which is fast upon us. And end of year, we'll start in January, the legislative session. So I'm suggesting that we poll everyone a little mid to late spring to see about a meeting right after legislative session, so we can have updates from that.
Session ends May.
Typically.
Okay.
So maybe a summer meeting, but we can poll everyone until that time, at that time.
Okay, do we need to poll everyone now? Would that be a good?
When we do, sometimes members, depending on the board, like that. Sometimes members hate that because they don't like us to plan their lives like that. But some of them like to kind of put it on their agenda even then. We can poll now, but it's fluid. Even if we poll now and we say June 15th, I don't even know if that's a weekday or weekend, we'll contact you closer to that date, and that can change at that time. If members are comfortable with that, we can do that, or we can just wait. We kind of make sure you don't forget us. Anna will be bugging you in plenty of time for that next meeting.
Okay, does anyone have a recommendation that they would like to see when the next meeting be? I would like to see early to mid-June, personally. Can I have a motion to that effect?
I think mid-June would be fine. We just have to look at the date like Miss Mary was saying. And, we'll certainly have to look at it again. But yeah, I'm in favor of the month of June.
Anyone else have something different? You gonna put that in form of a motion, Joe?
I'm sorry, yes. I motion that we meet again in June of 2021.
Do I have a second?
It's Laura Donahue, I'll second.
Thank you, Laura. Do we need a vote on that, Anna?
Yes, sir. I can do a vote.
Thank you.
Joseph Levine,
Yes.
Cynthia Rothermel,
Yes.
Andrea Gregg,
Yes.
Laura Donahue,
Yes.
and presiding officer Steve Epperson.
Yes.
Motion passes, sir.
Okay, it is 10:53, and I do adjourn this meeting.